Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining session number 6 of the Near Web series, Writing Smart Contract in Rust. The Near Web series is organized by blockchain club all over the world and by BAF, 501c3 nonprofits that aims to accelerate blockchain education. We are launching workshops and classes, in the US and try to expand globally. So thank you so much for coming, everyone. This session is hosted by Blockchain at Hong Kong University. So thank you so much for them for presenting. So I'll let Justin present.
Thank you, Alex. So hello everyone, hello from Hong Kong. So today we're going to talk about writing smart contract in Rust. So in the following about 60 minutes of the workshop, we're first going to talk about what's an NFT smart contract, and then we're going to try to mint our first NFT doing live coding, and then we'll also explore what is decentralized voting, like voting on the blockchain, the theory behind it. And lastly, we'll also have our guest speaker today, Jacob, to talk about what's the life of like Web3 developer and the opportunities of the NEAR ecosystem. So a brief introduction of the HKU Blockchain Cup. So we are the first and only blockchain cup in Hong Kong, and we are also the only Asian University Blockchain Cup in the NEAR's web series this time. So we first started in 2021, and for me, I just started first programming smart contracts in like last December or something. So it's been quite a quick journey learning it. So let's first talking about the applications of smart contract. So smart contracts are just programs stored on blockchain that run when the predetermined conditions are met in the program. To deploy a smart contract, for example, on Ethereum, we'll first need a transaction containing the compile code of the contract without specifying the recipients on the IDE. Then we need to access our wallet to approve the transaction, since using gas fees to deploy is because of storage. And after sending the smart contract onto the chain, we need to initialize it to execute what we program inside it. So we can see there are quite a few applications that what's special about smart contract on the photos on the right. Yeah, and let's move on to minting our first NFT contract on NEAR. So this will take around 30 to 40 minutes, and what we will be doing is diving into a minting session in the NFT Zero to Hero tutorial. So here's a quick link on it. Let me try to send it on the chat room. Yep. And then we also try to, beside like minting the NFT, we also try to use a front-end JavaScript application to interact with our smart contract, like minting NFTs. So there's quite a few things that you will need on your computer before starting this programming. So if a zero Rust experience, you will need the Rust toolchain, which can be downloaded here. Yep. So besides installing these toolchain, we also need quite a few of software plugins available. For example, Yarn, which is the package manager, and also the NEAR API JS and the NEAR CLI, which need to be installed on your computer in a console command before playing with smart contracts. It's the JavaScript library that uses the RPC to interact with the NEAR blockchain, and also wrapping around the API JS to interact with the blockchain as well. And also to play with our NFT contract, we also need a NEAR testnet wallet accounts, so which can be opened using the wallet.testnet.near.org, which can be done later when we finish making our first NFT contract. And we also need to have a programming environment. Our IDE this time is VS Code, which is quite a good one for us now. So let's start minting our first NFT. we need to first clone 2 repos in your IDE. So in your programming environment, for example, for me, it's the VS Code now. You just simply need to type git pull and then the link that we have just copied. Okay. Yep. So after typing these commands, we'll start downloading the contract really quickly. And then next, we also need to switch to the right branch of what we're going to program, because the tutorial itself is really long and it includes a lot of codes from everything besides the NFT contract. So we need to type the next command, git check out2.minting, which switches to the current directory of our program that we're going to do. So after going into the code, let's see what's inside it first. So let's talk about what is NFT minting. So NFT itself is a smart contract, and this smart contract requires to do 3 main things. First thing is to keep track the tokens issued, and the second one is to store information of each token. And lastly, it needs to link the token to its owner, for example, a owner's wallet address. So when we go to the NFT contract folder, which should be in your current directory after you type in those commands we have just gave out, you can see in the code. Let's see, in the source library.rs, we can see is the structure of the NFT smart contract. So let's check out the first few fields that we have here. Each field contains a collection, and the collection is the data structure from near to stimulate structures like maps or the maps of vectors. And for those not tech-savvy people, they're just normal, typical computer science data structures. Yes. And here we can see that these few contract parameters, these few collections, they are using the lookup map, which is kind of like a Python dictionary, which contains a key and value pairs in a near blockchain. So they include account ID, tokens per owner, tokens by ID, and tokens metadata by ID, and metadata. So talk about metadata, we're going to explain it very soon. So moving on, what is account ID? Account ID is a string that ensures no special or unsupported characters on the near blockchain for easy interaction. And the tokens per owner allow user to keep track of the tokens owned by any accounts. As we mentioned before, which is kind of like a dictionary storing key and value pairs. And also the next one is token ID, which returns all the info about a token. For example, is metadata. And the next one is the token metadata by ID, which returns the metadata of a specific token only. And one thing to note that is that token ID and account ID are strings, which stores like words and texts. So as we mentioned before, smart contract, NFT smart contract needs to be initialized first. So there are initialization functions. So when we dig into the program, so let's talk about what initialization functions first. Is the function that can be called one time, usually after deployment of the smart contract. And these functions in the code are marked by #init. So if we dig into the code here, we can see there are 2 programs there which have the #init. So there are the initialization functions in our smart contract this time. So one of them is the new default method, and the other one is new. And this new method, the first one, or the second one, which contain owner's ID, account ID, metadata, NFT contract metadata, everything. They initialize all the contract fields that we have just saw about. And the other one, the new default method, it initializes all the contract metadata, the info about the contract itself. For example, what picture is storing, the description and stuff. So I've just talked about metadata quite briefly. So what actually is metadata? So the contract metadata, if we go back to another file in the same directory, in the source directory, which is the metadata.rs. Let's see. Okay. So we are at the metadata.rc. We can see there are quite a lot of data already here. And we'll only look into the first part here, the public structure of NFT contract metadata, which can be seen here, line 12 to 17. And we're going to look into line 13 to 15, which about the first thing, the spec, the name, and the symbol. So what is the spec? The spec is the version of the smart contract. Since we can interact with the smart contract from time to time, we can also update the version of the smart contract that we're going to deploy. And the next one is the name of the smart contract for us to identify simply. And also lastly, the symbol is a shorter name to identify our smart contract. Yep, just shorthand for name. And you can change the name and symbol to anything you want in the library.rs, which is, oops, sorry about that. Yep. Okay, we're back. Which is in the library.rs. Here. In the library.rs lines 70 to 72, you can see that these are the things that we can change about the NFT smart contract. Next, about the token metadata. As I've said just now, the token itself, like the NFT token itself, can contains the data that we can edit. Firstly, in the metadata.rs line 25 to 27, we have the title. Yep, here we have the title, which contains the name of the NFT. And the next one is description, which is the description of an NFT. For example, if I have a picture of a certain ether, you can describe the ether in a way in the description field. And the next one is the media, which is kind of the most important part of an NFT. It contains the link to the NFT is in the media field. So we usually put an URL inside that. And there are also you can see from the programs, there are quite a lot of fields in the NFT metadata. So if we want to look into it, you can go to another link here called from the Nomicon. Yep, in the link here, which I will try to provide later, which talks about the near token standards, all of it online. And the next thing we have is talking about the minting function. So what is the minting function? The minting function is called after initializing our NFT. So first, we'll go to the mint.rs in our NFT smart contract. here in the same directory, if you can identify some familiar terms that we have just talked about in the metadata field. So do you see any similar terms? They all contains token ID, token metadata, and account ID. So these three information are going to be used in all these two functions. And talking about these specific fields, because there are three main data that we talk about. The first one is token per owner. It adds the token ID into the set of token that the receiver owns. And the next one is the tokens by ID, which create a token object, and then map this token ID to that token object in the tokens by ID field. And lastly, the token metadata by ID maps the token to its metadata. And in the minting function, there are a few arguments, which we have just saw just now, which the first one, the token ID, the custom ID given the token, metadata is the metadata associated with the token, and the receiver ID, which is the account that will own the NFT. So these three arguments have their own settings, for example, string, objects, and strings without special characters. And next one is we're going to look into the methods of the minting functions. So the firstly is the initial storage function, because smart contracts use codes, and codes have storage, and storage means paying more gas fees on the blockchain. So initial storage usage is to measure the initial storage being used on the contract. The more storage you use, the more gas fees that you have to pay, and the smart contract becomes more expensive to deploy. And the next one is to specify the token structure that contains the owner ID, because each different smart contracts, different tokens, that may have different structures. And also the next, the next method is to insert the token ID and the token structure and check if that token exists. Because if we're going to do NFT, we need to check if the original token exists, so it's not duplicatable. And the next one is the next one is to insert different data into the token. For example, the token ID and metadata. And also, we will also call the internal method for adding the token to the owner. What are internal method? Internal method is a very complicated part of the smart contract, which we are not going to cover today. But if you are really interested about what internal method do, you can go to the starting document of the tutorial that we have set just now. And also, last two is the next method is the required storage in bytes, which return the required storage to be used by the smart contract. And the last one is to refund any excess storage if the user attached too much, because we want our smart contract to be deployed successfully. While if there are any excess gas fees, excess storage that can be refunded or get back, we can also refund to our smart contract account. So why care about storage? As I have said just now, storage means whether the smart contract is going to be more expensive or not. Every contract that is created on NEAR is deployed onto a new account, and every bit of information that gets stored onto that state of the contract has to be paid in some way, and is being paid by the new contract. So more NFT minted means more storage to use on behalf of the account. If you mint more NFT, you will need more storage, and then you will need more gas fee, and then you will pay more to do so. So more tokens have to be paid out in order to cover the storage. And the term to call this is storage staking. And caring about storage also prevents spamming and draining account balances to prevent us from spamming NFTs or like draining the account balances and affecting the blockchain status. So the next part, after initializing, after everything, we need to deploy our contract now. So in the coding environment, we'll type yarn and yarn build. So we'll type a yarn and yarn build here. And what this do is that you run a build script located in the in our NFT contract build.sh file, which is here. So and so what does this do? In short, it compiles our smart contract into another file called in the .wasm file, which cannot be seen, but is in the out folder, which can be seen later. It's in the out folder here, and it cannot be seen because either binary or uses unsupported text and code. And this is our compiled smart contract file. So next step, we're going to need a wallet on the testnet.nia.org. So when we visit the NIA account, for example, we can create a new account. We can type our name that we try to use, for example, blockchain at hku2.testnet. So we're going to save the passphrases. Yep. So you can see that after the account is set up, you have your address net name or like something.testnet. And we'll go back to try to deploy our smart contract. So first, in our coding environment, again, we need to type something like NIA login. So if you see this, and then your browser will appear one message for like this. Oh, do you want to connect with DIA? So we just take connect. Yep. So we're now logged in and we can interact with our NIA account in our coding environment. And then we also need to type the following two commands into our program environment, into the VS Code. The first one is export space NFT contract ID equals to your testnet account. And then the next one is going to do echo NFT contract ID, which prints out your contract information in the console command. And the next one is the big step, is to deploy the NFT to our account. So following the code below, NIA deploy space webs file out main wasp account ID NFT contract ID. So the code what the code does is simply deploy our WASM files to the contract to the blockchain and link it to our account ID. After deploying, we're going to initialize our contract on the blockchain. So to initialize, we need to see what metadata is stored in a contract. So by typing this command, we can view what's in the what metadata is in the contract. Like here. So by typing near view NFT contract ID, NFT metadata, remember you can see what's written back in the spec name and symbol field in your NFT contract. And there are also other fields about the token metadata that can be set. For example, token ID, title, description, media, and receiver ID. And these can be saved and typed in our next command, which is to finally mint our function, mint our smart contract, NFT smart contract. So it's quite a long command here. So what this does is to put every bit of information of our NFT in a single command and to mint it on the blockchain. So firstly, we need to call the smart contract, and then we have the NFT mint command here, method here. And in the mint function, we have different fields: the token ID, the metadata, title, description, and the media, all together, and also including the receiver ID below. After mentioning this critical information, it also linked to the account ID, which is mentioned before using the NFT contract ID variable. And next step, we go after this, we already mint our first NFT. So what we can see afterwards, if that you can see, go back to your wallet page, and then you can see what happened to your wallet and whether you have minted your NFT. And if you want to check if your NFT is correctly minted, you can see here. Originally, it should be empty, but after minting, your NFT should contain here. For example, my NFT contains this image, and then its name, is this description, and also we can see the related transaction data in the recent activity field. So now we have already seen how we can mint our first NFT. We can further look into how to wire it up in the front end. So we go back to our code environment, the VS Code, and then we navigate. We navigate into our NFT tutorial front end directory. We have which is one of the folder we have tried to copy in our first step, and then we type out git checkout ETH Stanford -tutorial, which direct us to the current directory of the front end app. And the next step is very simple, is to type yarn and yarn start in the VS Code, which brings us to this website, which contains a simple interface of login and minting the NFT. So if you are at this step now, pressing the button mint NFT does nothing, because we need to complete the mint logic first. But besides that, we also need to understand what the front-end JavaScript is doing. So we need to look into the config.js folder now. So in the config.js folder, we can see there are quite a few cases about different nets, mainnets, testnets, and these are for switching different configs in different environments, different chains. And I'll also provide the links to interact with these blockchains. And the next one, the file that we're going to look into, is the utils.js. So what this does is to retrieve the config object and the config output and help us to connect to the near chain, which also help us to expose the near API tools to window objects for global use and create a contract object to interact with the smart contract. And here's the minting logic that we're going to add into the minting tools.js in the source components. So what we add is that we await the contract. What code that we add just now is this part. Await window.contract.nft mint is a function for us to mint the NFT as we have saw in the smart contract file before. So it includes token ID and its metadata and the receiver ID. And the bottom below is the green number, the free something really long number is the gas fee that we're going to include for the for minting this NFT. And the lower one is the price that we're going to try to mint the NFT, the transaction that we're going to mint this NFT. So the time is running short, and I'm sorry that if you haven't caught up with what I just talked about, I'm really sorry about that. But the show needs to go on, and if you are too late to join or want to look into details of what I have just talked about just now, so you can see the full tutorial here. Anyway, I will pass the stage to Martin, who will talk about voting contract.
Okay, yeah, thanks Justin for sharing. Now I'm going to move on to this voting contract part. So as you guys can see, next page, please. So next page. Yeah, so we believe that balloting is a great example to illustrate the potential of smart contracts. You can do also NFT mintings as we just illustrated. So here's a voting contract code as an example to demonstrate this application. Next page. Next page. Okay, so the voting smart contract consists of two parts. So the first part is the wallet address of the voter, and the second is the choices that he or she made. So the choice is either an A or nay. The A will be represented by true, and nay will be false. So next page. So here in the bottom, you can see this line of code. So the votes are stored in the mapping named votes, and the voters are stored in the mapping called voter register. So notice that the votes are private, as you can see here. So voters cannot read them directly, but the voter register is public, so anyone can check, and this ensure the integrity of the ballot. So next page. The contract will go through three states. When it's created, it will be in the state of created. So there's three stages. And once the voting begins, the contract will turn to the state of voting. And after that, it will go to the state of ended. Next page. As you can see here, the ballot official name and the proposal is provided, and so the contract is now initialized. After that, the constructor will read his or her wallet address and update the ballot official address. And at this stage, it's created. Next page. After that, voters are added to the voter register mapping, and then the wallet address as its name is entered, and it's only executable when the contract is in the state of created. So no one can add new folders once it began. So this, again, ensures the integrity of the ballot. Next page is the example code. Next page, please. Okay, now we come to the function that is called to allow voting. Voters can vote only if the contract state is voting. The condition statement checks for two conditions. So the voter can vote if his or her name is found in the voter register and hasn't voted. So after the vote, it's registered into the votes mapping, and the voting status would be changed to avoid double voting. And if A is made, count result will add 1. Next page is the Java code. And finally, the end vote function we call to end the ballot. The required state to run the function is voting, and of course only official, ensures that only the chairman or the president can run this function. The function will change the contract state to end it, so no one can continue voting. And then the final result will be the variable will be updated, and with the value of count result, it concludes the ballot. Last page is the driver code again. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. And now I'd like to pass to Jacob from NEAR to share with us some of his ideas. Thank you, Jacob.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep, can hear.
All right, sounds good. All right, so let me just give a quick introduction of myself. My name is Jacob Lindahl. I work at NEAR Foundation, and NEAR Foundation is a nonprofit that sponsors the development of NEAR protocol. So I've been working at NEAR Foundation for just under a year now as a software engineer on the education team. The education team works on a lot of different educational programs in the NEAR ecosystem. We run a program called the NEAR Certified Developer Program, which if you take that program, you can be certified as a NEAR developer, and that opens up to you a lot more opportunities within the ecosystem, and you can get added to our official job board and other stuff like that. You'll have an in with some of the developers and other people at the NEAR Foundation. So that can be a really good way to get integrated into the ecosystem if that's something that you're interested in. If you, watch this presentation and you're really interested in getting more involved in NEAR ecosystem or learning how to write smart contracts on NEAR, I'd highly recommend checking out the NEAR Certified Developer Program. Much of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be covered. You'll be able to access it at near.university. So there's that link in the chat there. Right. Actually, let me cover a little more about my background first so we can talk about what it's like to be a Web3 developer, my personal experience, and then we can talk about a little more about some of the experiences and opportunities that are available to you in the NEAR ecosystem. All right, so let's see here. I have been involved in cryptocurrency and the Web3 space since around 2017. When I was still in university, I ended up becoming the president of the blockchain club at my local university that I was attending. And I think I started learning Rust and smart contract development around that same time. Initially, I was planning on going into medical software development. So I took internships at some medical software companies and was working towards that goal. But once I graduated, I realized that my passion really lay in the Web3 ecosystem and making the web more accessible, more secure, and more equitable for everybody. I mean, so long as you have an internet connection, you can use cryptocurrency. And that really appealed to me, making, robust financial tools available to everybody who has an internet connection. Because that was something that was really important to me. I would say I was like a Web 2 developer. That was the path I was heading down while I was in university. And really kind of picked up this Web3 stuff on the side. Luckily, if you are heading down that Web 2 path, NEAR has a really, really easy track for you because since smart contracts can be written in any language that compiles to WebAssembly, that could be Rust. That is, first and foremost, the language that NEAR prioritizes. So I would highly recommend learning Rust if you want to really dive deep into the NEAR ecosystem. But any language that compiles to WebAssembly, you could conceivably write a smart contract in. So another SDK that we have available for people to write smart contracts in is the AssemblyScript SDK. AssemblyScript is it will feel very familiar to Web 2 developers if you've ever worked with JavaScript or TypeScript. It is very heavily inspired by those two. Feels very similar. So that would be a very easy and straightforward onboarding process for someone who's only worked with JavaScript before, or maybe some other scripting language. Maybe if you're just not familiar with Rust, it might be a little easier to pick up AssemblyScript. Right. So that's kind of my path from being, just like a typical Web 2 developer, kind of heading down this medical software route or something like that, Web 2 developer, and eventually transitioned into Web 3. Right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the opportunities available in the Near ecosystem. And I'll try and make this quick because I understand that for many of you guys over in Hong Kong, it's pretty late. So I'll try and run through this as quickly as possible. Also, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to unmute yourself or just put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that periodically. All right, so that link that I put in the chat, near.university, that's the first place I would direct you to if you're interested in many of these educational opportunities related to Near. So the first thing we're going to go through is our certification programs. If you look under that Learn menu, there's a certification programs, should be the first link there. And if you scroll down just a bit, you can see a list of our different certification programs that we offer. First and foremost is the Near Certified Developer Program. I was talking about that a little bit before. We just released our Certified Analyst and Entrepreneur programs. The Certified Instructor Program is for you if you want to end up becoming an instructor for one of these other programs. I personally am very interested in security, and I work a lot on security tools and security education. So the course is not out yet, but the Near Certified Security Specialist is something that I have had my eye on for a while, and I'm hoping to get that pushed out sooner rather than later. So if you're interested in security, especially smart contract security on Near, that is really my wheelhouse, and I'm working on that. We have a couple of other certification programs coming down the pipe. Should be released soon, but I can't give any sort of concrete timeline on most of those programs, unfortunately. That probably covers our certification programs for now. You might want to get a certification if you're interested in one of our earning opportunities, which we'll cover in just a little bit, namely a grant or a fellowship, something like that. Getting a certification from Near.university would be a big plus, a big bonus on your application to for like a grant or a fellowship or something like that. We also have a few other courses here that you might want to check out. We have a bunch of different self-paced courses, some video courses, etc., so on and so forth. And we partnered with a couple of other organizations to help them produce Near courses as well. So definitely, if you're interested in a deeper dive into anything that was covered today or in any of the other Near Web Series sessions, take a look there at near.university. Let's take a look at some of the opportunities we have to earn. So if you go to near.university/earn, then we have grants and fellowships there listed, a couple of other opportunities as well. You can apply for a grant that is typically, in the case, if you want to develop something, create something for the Near ecosystem, you'd want to apply for a grant. And for a fellowship, if you want to actually work with the Near collective in some way, shape, or form. We have those typically take the form of like a part-time short-term contract or something like that. Right, so those are most of the opportunities that are available on near.university. Let's see, you could also right, if you get one of the certifications, you can, there's a possibility that you can show up on jobs.near.university. So I just posted that link on the chat as well. Jobs.near.university. And on jobs.near.university, we have different job listings. If you're interested in getting involved career-wise in the Near ecosystem, we have a bunch of different job listings there. Again, if you have like a Near certified developer credential, that would be a huge plus on your application for any of those jobs. So I highly recommend that. Right, other places that you might want to go to check out new and interesting things in the Near ecosystem would be awesomenear.com. Let me just get you that link in the chat as well. Awesomenear.com. There's a bunch of different projects there. And if you're familiar with the state of the Web3 hiring market right now, everyone is looking for developers. So I can't speak for many or really any of these projects that are listed on awesomenear.com, but I would not be surprised if most of them are looking for developers. And in my experience, everyone involved in the Near ecosystem has been nothing but friendly and kind and willing to talk to you. So don't hesitate to reach out to these people if they have contact information listed. And if you want to contribute to a project, most of them are open source as well. So they would be more than happy to have you. Yeah, so check out a bunch of projects running on the Near protocol at awesomenear.com. Right, that covers pretty much all of the resources. Just a quick overview of the resources that we have and opportunities available for people interested in diving a little deeper into the Near ecosystem. If you have any questions about Near Foundation, our educational endeavors, or security when writing dApps for Near, don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any questions now, don't hesitate to post them in the chat or unmute yourself. But I think that's just about everything I have for you today. Should I like post contact information or something like that? Or who do I turn it over to now? Do I turn it back over to you, to Justin or Alexis?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can turn it over to me, I guess. All right. I think Xavier has a question. Sorry.
Sure enough. Yeah. Yes. All right. So hi. If I am a brand new student, how much experience with projects do I need to get an internship as a dev? So if you have a completely empty portfolio, that might be something to work on, because I in particular, when I am interviewing someone, and to be upfront with you, as far as internships go, I haven't done any hiring for internships before, so I can't necessarily speak from firsthand experience there. But if you're looking to impress an interviewer, I would say that having projects in your portfolio, so whether that's on your GitHub or maybe something listed on your resume, if that would be something that I personally, as an interviewer, really look for in applications, is just personal projects, like passion projects. If it's it doesn't even have to be terribly complicated, just something to show that you're interested in this ecosystem, that you're interested in learning the technology, that you're self-motivated, and that you can think creatively. That is a big plus to me. For internships, you're not going to need to show someone a multi-million-dollar project that you you built from the ground up by yourself. Anything simple is probably fine. If you're brand new with blockchain, to get an internship, again, I haven't done hiring for blockchain internships before, but there are plenty of educational resources out there where you can learn a little bit of Rust coding, Near smart contract development, or Solidity smart contract development if you're interested in developing for Aurora or something like that. And just watch a couple tutorials, read a bit of the docs, write a couple smart contracts, deploy something to testnet. That's probably more than enough. All right. Any other questions? If not, it looks like Alexa's posted the follow-up or the conclusion slide in the chat, so be sure to check that out as well. Anything else we need to cover?
Sorry, I had just one last question. I guess I do have the links right now, and is it okay if I could connect with you, Jacob, on somewhere, or is there how to get your contact personally too?
Sure. Should I post some contact information?
Feel free, yes. Twitter, whatever you are comfortable sharing, Jacob.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Yeah, my Twitter is at sudo_build.
Right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, definitely don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool. I had a quick question. What is the best platform to contact the people on NEAR if you have questions or if you want to contact them regarding to employment opportunities? Would you say it's Discord, Twitter, Telegram, any IDs?
I would say definitely Discord would probably be my first. That would be my go-to. I mean, we have avenues for contact on Telegram and Twitter as well, so you could reach out to us there. But on Discord, I think we're still holding the daily office hours with the developers, so you could literally just hop in a voice chat with people who work at NEAR Foundation full time and just talk to them about whatever for an hour every day. What is, let me look up the schedule for that again real quick so I don't give you bad information. Where are our office hours? But yeah, make sure to join the NEAR Discord. It's near.chat is the URL for that. Okay, so the office hours are Monday through Friday, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. UTC. And if you want to participate in those, be sure to join the NEAR Discord. That's near.chat.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, let us know if you still have some question. In the meantime, Justin, do you want to add, or Jacob, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet with you guys today.